Welcome everyone to the Qt for Python session of the Qt Contributor Summit. I would like to just, or maybe I should first introduce myself. My name is Friedemann Kleint. I've been working for, or joined Trolltech in 2006, and I've been working on Qt for Python since 2016, together with our team, which is headed by Dr. Christian Marrera Fedes, who is also doing the summit. Then we have an external consultant, Christian Tismer-Sperling, who is mostly working on PySide 6. A newly hired colleague, Shyamnath Premnath, so far working on PySide and tooling. Then we have also Venugopal Shivashankar from the doc team. And last but not least, Simo Feld working on coin and continuous integration and package and wheel creation, these things. Then I would like to quickly go through the list of improvement or things achieved since the last Qt Contributor Summit. For example, there's the PiPi support. PiPi is a fast, compliant, new Python implementation using just-in-time compiler, which is much faster than the traditional C Python. We have observed speedups up to the factor of 10. We usually use the Qt Mandelbrot example for comparing. Next, due to the growing wheel size, we have decided to split the wheels into PySide 6 Essentials and PySide 6 add-ons, roughly matching the Qt Essentials, but not entirely. And the old PySide 6 wheel is just an empty wheel, causing both to be installed. We started working on support for cross-building to embedded platforms mostly. Then also, besides splitting wheels, we also generally reduce the wheel size. Our existing libraries were also split. We split the QML support into a new library, libpyside QML, so that the original libpyside no longer has any dependencies to QML, which is also for reducing the deployment size. We've been working on QML support. We added many new QML decorators, which are basically the equivalents of the macros you put in the C++ headers, like QML named element. Those are implemented as class decorators in Python. We added tooling. For example, PySide 6 QML lint has been added, and also the QML type registrar, so that you can actually check projects. Then we added a new tool called PySide 6 Project, which is so far a kind of like a build tool, which will generate the artifacts like the UI files and the RTC files from a project file, and also the QML type files. And it's also used for better integrating with Qt Creator, because it then can open the project and build it. And as always, the documentation was improved, so optically and from content-wise. For the bindings generator, which is my part, basically, we added the so-called opaque containers, and this is an opaque container, and in our Python implementation is a Python binding for a C++ container, like a std vector or a QList. And the idea behind this is to avoid the conversion from a Python list, which otherwise happens every time you pass a Python list to an API taking a list. Most prominently, something like QPaint or Drawpoints, which takes a Q list of points. So far, you could only pass it a Python list of Q points, which was then converted in each call. And with the opaque container, you can create a wrapped Q list directly. Then further, we made many types now built in. It's no longer necessary to declare all C++ primitives types and some containers in the type system XML files, which drastically simplifies it. Some internal detail, the SPK object type, which was a type in the lib-Shiboken type, was now removed. We fixed the import path of the Shiboken utility module to be Shiboken 6, and also documentation was improved. For the future, we now have upcoming a change which uses true Python enums for the Qt enums. This is an optional feature, or it is a default feature in the upcoming 6.4 release, but you can switch back to the old implementation because there are, in some corner cases, some incompatibilities, but it should greatly improve things. And we would like to further work on the embedded story, to try real embedded platforms. We are also researching WebAssembly because we have two major pieces. We have a Qt for WebAssembly now back, and you can build Python for WebAssembly. And the challenge is to bring it together, which would greatly increase our outreach and platforms we can support. We are also working on deployment in general and particularly to Android. It will be mostly based on Nutka. And there are some other smaller things. Numpy support will be built in 6.4, and we are also improving Qt Creator integration. And of course, we want to also improve the interaction with the Python ecosystem. And with that, I would like to open the discussions. Maybe you talk about your use cases, pain points, motivate people to contribute, or other questions. We actually had invited people from the PyQt Graph project to join because there were some questions about how to get data into Qt quickly in and out. Is there anyone here?
Yeah, hi, I'm I'm Ogie Moore. Yes, I'm a maintainer of PyQt Graph. Thanks for the invite. No, don't. I mean, happy to answer questions, but you know, collectively we've been very happy with the help you all have provided us, and I know a year ago or so you all started indicating being open to having better support for NumPy arrays, passing them to the QPainter methods, to the draw methods, and that's something that we're really excited about.
Yes, we actually did one function. I think it was Drawpoints NP or something. I was a bit I was a bit wondering because now the approach you're suggesting is something else. It's not direct NumPy support, but using a point pointer and then fiddling this into to point this to the array basically. So that's kind of exploiting a hack. It's not really meant to be used like this.
Yeah, but I mean, you could say the same thing about all sorts of things in this industry. But yeah, no, there is a good argument to be made that it's not meant to be. Yes, no. What I proposed was using the void pointer, and which is not really a typical Python use case, but it is. But using pointers in the C++ version of Qt is supported, and I'm hoping that the amount of work to get that work, or the amount of work needed on the Pi side end to get something like that working would not be too much, or would not be too great of a burden.
Yeah, actually, it's a kind of an oversight. Normally, these methods were excluded basically from the bindings. So, yeah, I mean, the question for us is, could it be also be handled by adding further NP versions of the functions? But then the problem is with anything like a QRect or something which has more complex data, then this will be a sort of one-purpose API for just one data layout. And if another person has a different data layout, they will have to again write a conversion loop to put it into this format. So that's why we are a bit hesitant to add this. So I'm not really sure if there are any ideas about it. If it's in Qt or Qt for Python, it should be really general use, general purpose API.
Yeah, well, I mean, the structures of QRect, QLines, QPoint, I mean, these aren't or I guess a really more exotic one, which actually I think is you all accidentally support, is a QPixmap fragments. We were able to pass along. I think we passed along the void pointer to qpixmap fragments to the draw qpixmap fragments method, and that actually ended up. We were really surprised. I mean, some experimentation, but it ended up working, and it worked great for our use case. But obviously, completely undocumented, and we adopted that knowing full well that it may not work at any version in the future. And we just hope that you all don't undo that.
But I mean, have you thought about porting maybe the parts of your library to C++? Have a small C++ module with Python bindings, because this would probably solve many of these issues.
Not really. I mean, PiPi is a pure Python library. We have some Numpy support, but being able to distribute a universal wheel that works, well, we supported Qt4 until fairly recently, but works with recent versions of Qt5 and now current versions of Qt6, and it has been an incredibly powerful feature for us. Oh, and I see I see in chat here, one of our other contributors that has really exploited some of the inner workings of Qt here is, he just posted in chat, is here. So glad he's able to join us.
It also, I guess that it will make more sense, and besides this Contributor Summit, Ogi, that maybe we could sit together. I mean, if you could bring up more, because now, I mean, of course, we have 15 minutes, but maybe we can set up a call. I mean, if you have more people involved, and you can present maybe all the other details and pinpoint more directly, and so we can discuss like the pros and cons, implementation details, or maybe a more interactive session.
Yeah, no, I would absolutely love that. I mean, I think we might have some time zone issues to sort out, but nothing that's not insurmountable. So, is the preferred method to reach out to you, Gitter or Twitter? Do you have a preference?
Yeah, I guess that if you can share it on IRC or something like that. I mean, you have the emails. The issue itself, you have the emails of the people. Maybe you can select a couple of slots, and we can see if you can join.
I'm sorry. What do you email?
So you mean on the issue, you can maybe drop the suggestion for the time slot if you want. The one that I
issue. Got it. Yes.
Or on the chat, as you know, we have everything bridged together, so pretty sure that we will read it. So.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll get in touch with some of our some of our regular contributors and figure out some times that I think will work for everybody, and I'll happily propose them there.
Cool.
But we would actually favor more these NP methods or NumPy methods where you pass the NumPy array, because that's less of a hack than the exploiting this pointer feature.
Well, this void pointer feature we exploit with the PyQt bindings, or we exploit something very similar with the PyQt bindings, which we have an abstraction layer in our library. So having something that's more or less equivalent would be ideal. But I mean, if you all wanted to introduce draw whatever NP methods, I mean, we would certainly work with that. I'm not in a position to be picky or to complain about it. Anytime we can do zero copy operations like this, we're very happy.
Okay, yeah, then maybe we can take that to a separate session or something. Are there any other questions in the chat?
Sorry, just second question regarding the PiPi support. I know we started doing some testing with that. We discovered a couple of issues which we posted about, but I'm curious how ongoing support for PiPi, what's that plan to look like in the future?
Sorry, ARM on what? Windows or Mac?
No, PiPi support.
The support for
PiPi. So far, I think that the only thing that we have is that we noticed that it worked with Create, and we enable the CI, which is kind of like a custom run that we are trying to regenerate wheels and stuff. We have some tests, and the other Christian kind of tested 3.9, so he said that it's working. So far, I think that we haven't included there, but we haven't encounter any issue by ourselves. So if you filed a bug report or something, maybe we missed it completely. But there is, besides refining what it currently is, we don't know what else should we focus on, because as far as we know, it's working and the wheels are there, but so yeah, you said that you find some issues, or you have to file
I posted them in the Gitter chat, but in hindsight, that was probably not the best place to post them. So I'll be happy to create bug reports.
Yeah, the bug reports I think it will be better, because even if now we have all the chat platforms connected, sometimes for some reason one of the connections fails and stuff, and we cannot be everywhere. So that's I think that for us it's better to close something as an invalid issue than forget about it on the chats. So if you could open one, it would be nice.
Well, what's your question about ARM platforms? Because they typically have some big engine, little engine hours that hasn't been tested extensively yet, I guess, in using PiPi.
Not sure.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Anyone from the creator team around to maybe give a short overview how it's progressing?
David fixed everything, so now it's creator with a proper Python ID.
Mm-hmm.
But Samuel is there. Are there any wheels to be generated? You want to reply to that, Friedemann? Or should I?
Sorry, what is the question? Any wheels to be generated?
Yeah, well,
yes. From time to time, there are people on the forum which want to use PySide on the Raspberry Pi and such devices. So the first thing they do is they call pip install, and there's nothing for them. So I was just wondering whether there will be some wheels at some point, or if I just keep saying you have to compile it yourself.
Shall we state that the wheels are forthcoming, Christian, or is that too optimistic?
Surprise! No, but there's still work in progress. But yeah, Samuel, the thing is even deeper. There is no Qt 6 for Raspberry Pi OS, at least the latest is stable. So that's why, for example, even with the other set of binding, PyQt, the only difference that they provide a source package that, as maybe you're familiar with, and that's why they start to build it like manually, and that's it takes hours. I don't know if someone really finished doing it, but yeah, so far there is a lot of effort to bring Qt 6 into Debian. So at some point it will reach Raspberry Pi OS, and then we will be unlocked to somehow have them. We can, with the cross build, for example, we do have some wheels around always that works with Arch Linux ARM and Manjaro ARM. So what I do personally is to recommend those people, if they don't have any love for Raspberry Pi OS, to install one of those rolling release distribution, because PySide there is as a system package. You don't need to be installed. This will be included in the system. And that's why we use that as to cross-compile and try them out. So that's the only solution we have so far. So hopefully in the future we could somehow create them manually. I did a test the other day on a virtual machine with using Lisandro's Qt 6 packages on Debian testing. And it works. I was really surprised because usually everything breaks with new distributions, but I create a set of wheels, for example, they're using those preliminary packages. So I hope that we can unlock that soon.
Nice. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
I see Giuseppe asking, does it need any changes on the C++ side, or is it more an exploration? Actually, that's an entire topic because people are using, for example, Qt charts or Qt data visualization, and we see in C++ already, it's really hard to get data in quickly into these modules, because right now you really have to add or create single lists or Q vectors of data points and append. And for example, if you want to do a moving graph, you would have to pop front and push back to the list of points and set the entire list of points. So basically, in all these modules, it would be really nice to have a look at them and maybe introduce something like a view of data which you can quickly change underneath in order to get graphs updated quickly. So this is, I guess, also a question for Qt 7, for Qt charts data visualization, and Python has to follow up with this. Basically, in Python, there's this Numpy module which has under the hood basically raw C arrays, among other things.
Yeah, David was sharing there that in case someone here is using Qt for Python, I mean, there has been a lot of improvement. The latest one, I think they will be available in Qt Creator 8, which is to automatically call the PySite 6 project tool, which generates the Python code from UI files and the Python code for the QRC files when you run the application. And besides all the things that David has been doing to properly select the interpreter and so on and so forth, it's closer to be less painful to do some Python stuff there. Also, we tweak a little bit the templates for projects because many people were loading dynamically UI files, for example, which is something that is not recommended, but we still provide a way of doing it. So things like that will be coming, and the rest of the things are mainly based on users' feedback. So if you person that are currently listening to me use Kit Creator with Python and found something that, oh, I really hate this or I really would like this, please go ahead and file a bug report.
Okay, are there any further questions or topics?
How is the documentation snippets move going on? I think there are still some stuff that are in C++ while in the Python documentation.
Christian, do you want to answer? You wrote this.
Sure, yeah. Now we'll try. No, the thing is that, yeah, as you know, historically, we couldn't do that by hand, so we automatically do the things now. It not works perfectly, but this is where we do require, in case you're listening to Giuseppe, do you require to do some modifications to the C++ side of things, is because there are many places in the Qt C++ code that the snippets are within the comment of the classes. If those snippets are not on a separate file inside the typical snippet directories, we cannot transform them by hand. So for example, when you encounter one, I mean, you will certainly help me a lot, Samuel, if you can ping me like, this one or this one or this one, so I can do the changes. Because then what we'll need to do, or anyone that wants to contribute, is to put that snippet in a snippet file in the C++ code, and for the next release, then the file will exist and we will be able to translate it. Because so far, I guess that this will be almost impossible to grab around the comments, checks which are the snippets, put it in some temporary file, transform it, and use it. That will be really problematic.
Is that procedure documented somewhere? Because I think it could also be some onboarding task that the newcomers could participate in.
That's a really good idea, Samuel, and it's not documented. And I think that I could try to do it. If you can maybe point me to one of the cases that maybe you found with C++ code, so I can use it as an example, because I don't remember. I'm too lazy to grab around. But that would be really cool. We could maybe set up as a simple task.
My memory currently fails me because I saw one not too long ago, but I will find you one.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, there was recently a bug reported about queue input dialog. The return tuple are not documented, but unfortunately the process is not as easy because you have to run the entire documentation build to verify it.
Yeah, and there was another discussion on Reddit the other day that Shyam, one of the developers, was pointing to me that someone wrote a book and some people were doing some criticisms, in a good way, of course, of the documentation, and they were dreaming about having new features and stuff. But here, I really don't know, Friedemann, if we could do something. For example, what they were asking for, there will be a killer feature for the APIs to really have one example application code per class to explain how to use it. I know many Qt classes contain snippets in the description to how to use it, for example, Qfile and stuff, but the things that there are many others that are not there. So of course there are obscure types and things that people is using with real applications, but maybe this is something that we could look into it, like an optional, like if there is a snippet somewhere included in certain classes, we could have our own like example of how to use these classes and stuff.
That's also
Maybe
something we want to have for C++, by the way. So it should be good to have it that every class has a minimum snippet.
Yeah. Yay, teamwork then. But one of the feedback that
has
at
to
least
do
we
work. But yeah.
Okay, so we are thinking on time. Thank you very much, Friedemann.